And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, man, there's a lot to talk about again. I know it's been a few days since I made a video. I had a plan to make a video on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know if any of you guys are football fans out there, but man, Sunday had two crazy games. The Sunday early game and the Sunday night game were just crazy. Overtime, last second touchdowns. It was just crazy. So all the plans I had to make videos just got thrown out the window. But there's a couple things I want to talk about. I want to talk about, I guess it's not really Pokemon drama as it more is drama going on with the Marks trading cards, how they were like a PSA submitter, and it seems like they might have scammed a lot of people. I want to talk about like the new PWCC weekly auction block, how the prices for a lot of that stuff are just stupid high. And then I'm going to talk a little bit at the end just about maybe the Leonhart Pop Shop, just because that's going to be happening actually this week, or not this week. Yeah, this week, Saturday. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit about my plans and some of the thoughts I had, and I want to run some stuff past you. So if you make it to the end of the video, you understand what I mean there. So the first thing I want to talk about is that Marks trading card. So I probably should have did a little bit more research than I actually did into this, but for pretty much what I understand was they were a real big submitter through PSA, and they were actually like licensed through PSA in order to be a submitter, very similar to like a graded gem or maybe like a Ludkins, maybe not to the same size, but still a large submitter. And it seems what happened was they had a couple people paid them up front to submit their cards, and so they sent all the cards away to the PSA. And then when the cards actually did come around and they finally got graded and PSA was ready to send them out, well, the company Marks, who acted as the middleman, just literally did not have the money to pay the bills. So why do I bring this up if this isn't really a Pokemon issue? Well, it brings up, it's still in like, the sports card, trading card, hobby area. And I want to talk about it being just a warning sign to a lot of people. When you have your card, something that is very valuable to you, you have to be very careful who you're trusting with those cards, whether it's middlemen to do grading, whether it's, people sending away your cards to have them encased and slabbed through these generic mom and pop basement grading companies. Like, I think everybody is very trusting, and I think that's like a good thing in a way where everybody's trusting, but you can't let your trust in people be trust to a fault, where when you trust people so much, you end up just hurting yourself in the long run. So maybe people could take a little bit from this story. And what it seems like is Mark's trading cards owed PSA like $1 million worth of submissions. But now the crazy part of this story was one of their like submittees or people that had submitted to Marks was also like a middleman. So think about that. That would be the equivalent of if I was saying to you guys, hey, send me all your cards. I'll send them the PSA myself. And you're like, sure, we'll send them Poke Knowledge. We'll trust him with our cards. But then literally I took your cards and just then turned around and submitted it to a graded gem. So I did think that that was a little strange. And I'm hoping a little bit more of the story like plays out a little bit and people find out exactly like what happens. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I want to talk about is the most recent PWCC weekly auction block. Now, if you guys don't know what happened, it was kind of like a big deal. So the PWCC, like very first monthly auction they did, a lot of those prices were really record lows, like prices tanked. It was bad. It was pretty much bad for everybody. And really, it was bad for the people that had submitted their cards to sell at PWCC. Listen, I was one of those people. I had a bunch of cards in that very first PWCC monthly auction, and I took a pretty bad beating on a lot of those cards. But with that said, the prices we saw at the most recent PWCC now weekly auction, because they moved from monthly auctions to weekly auctions, the prices we saw some of these cards hit in the weekly auction were extremely high. And not only were they what I would consider high, when you look at like comparable comps for most recent eBay sales, a lot of these prices were like sometimes like 20-30% higher than literally eBay most recent sales. So it just brings up like a lot of questions. And if you look at like the thumbnail of this, there was, well, I had bid on a couple cards in that auction. I did not win a single auction in this PWCC weekly auction. It's been a very, very long time where I did not win a single card in a PWCC auction lot. Now, the reason why was because all the prices were crazy. And the thumbnail of this is a PR1 base set Raichu. And if you guys are not new to this channel, you know. And if you are new, I'll explain it. So for my base set Raichu collection, I want a 1 through 10 graded collection, but I want all subgrades in between. So 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So like a 1 through 10 master graded set. And I don't really care who the grading card company is, but one of the like areas of my collection that's lacking the most for that graded, master collection or whatever, are those very low grades. The lowest grade I currently have in my Raichu collection is a 3.5. So I still need like a 1, a 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. So I saw, okay, a Raichu PR1. So if you don't know what a PR1 is, that is literally the worst possible PSA grade. It's more or less kind of like a novelty grade in a way because it's the worst possible condition. And yeah, there is like a little bit of weird buyer's premium that goes on these PR1s because there are weird collectors out there. And yeah, I guess in this sense, maybe I am one of those weird collectors. But even that card sold for like over $40. A lot of these cards I thought I could get for very cheap, I couldn't. Like in the last PWCC auction block, you had 7 selling for more than 8s. You had 6s selling for like premiums, like some lower grade stuff, even like a PSA, I think it was like a PSA 8 first edition Raichu sold for like well into the $800 range. And that is very rare to see prices fetch that high. And yeah, sure, it is a first edition Raichu, but that $800+ price tag, trust me, it's a lot for that card. So what does this mean? I'll tell you what the first thing this means is. I put again a bunch of cards together, and I'm sending them all to PWCC again. And now I don't actually know. I'm gonna end up sending them out in the mail tomorrow. It's gonna be a flat rate priority mailbox, so 3 to 5 days. I don't know which weekly auction my cards are gonna make it in, but I just said screw it. I'm gonna send a bunch of cards there, and I'm gonna test the waters again because if the auctions continue to do what they're doing, it's going to be interesting. And I think PWCC is going to be kind of moving into the future on the lower end cards. And yeah, there is obviously the premium auction. And sure, you have a few cards that reach like a couple $100. But the reason why I say I think PWCC is going to start to be the future is, a lot of people hate to talk about taxes and stuff like that. But PWCC, they don't send like 10, I think it's like 1099s to people. So if you're selling through PWCC, you're not going to get that 1099. Very similar to people that used to sell on eBay and would sell less than that, like $20,000 threshold. Now that eBay threshold is $600. And while I'll be the first one to tell you, especially if Pokemon Overflow is out there watching this video, everyone should pay their taxes. And that is the baseline. Pokemon Overflow, you quote me on that, everyone should pay their taxes. But with that said, I am not stupid. I know that people don't do that. So I think a lot of that, like, smaller end sales where people, it's very easy actually to reach over $600 worth of sales. Like that happens probably for most people, like by the end of January. And that is, then again, for a lot of people, it's probably even much quicker than the end of January. So when you think about that, and now PWCC isn't going to send out 1099 since interest. And now, one of the things I liked most about PWCC, and I still like most about PWCC, is if you sell your cards through PWCC, it takes a long time for your money to like go into your account. It literally takes like an entire month. It's a long time in order for it to be available for you to either withdraw it, send it to your bank account, or do whatever. But what I've always done is send some of that money to the bank, but I'll keep a lot of that money in the PWCC account and I don't ever take it out. And then when you buy purchases within the PWCC auction block, you literally have that money already there. So it is a lot of like that weird changing of hand. It's like, okay, I sell a card, but now my money goes into my PWCC account. That money goes from my PWCC account, buys a card on PWCC. That card goes into my vault. And then how do you want to like play that game? Now, the very interesting thing with PWCC, which I've had like very mediocre luck at it. I thought at the beginning it was going to be much easier, but it's their fixed market pricing. So what fixed market pricing is very similar to like an eBay buy it now. So you literally you could go through your vault, you find your card you want to sell, you click on that card, you can see what you paid for it because that would be like the insured value of that card. You click on it and then you just list it and it goes right into the fixed auction. And you could always make sure that whatever your fixed price is, you'll never possibly lose on that card because it will tell you everything like what did you pay for, and then it will tell you exactly what the fee will be to sell on that card. So real simple math. Let's just say you bought a card for $40 and you want to list it, it costs $5 to sell and your final fees will be $5. So in order to make money, you have to sell that card for more than $45. So it takes away a lot of the guesswork. It takes away all the shipping and all the tricky things that's involved in eBay. Now, this is weird too, right? Because just very recently, I want to say within the last couple weeks or couple months, I made a post saying the death of PWCC because I thought that that buyer's premium that PWCC was now putting on all these cards was going to be extremely detrimental. Now, I have been on the record at saying that the very first auction for PWCC would be like kind of a test almost. And the reason why I said it would be a test is because I was curious how many people would be buying on this most recent PWCC weekly auction, and how many of those people wouldn't even know that the buyer's premium existed. Now, so my very first inkling or my very first thought process was everybody would be afraid of that buyer's premium because honestly, I'm kind of afraid of that buyer's premium too in a way because 20% for a lot of these cards, you start adding up tons of money. And when you talk about tons of money, it could be relative, right? Like let's say you spend $2,000 in, I guess it's no longer a monthly block, but a weekly block. 2,000. There's a lot of cards, more on the higher end, some of these world cards, stuff like that. Very easily to get to like $1,000 to $2,000 range. So now let's say you buy a $2,000 card, but now you get hit with that 20% buyer's premium. You're now looking at a bill of $2,400. That extra $400 it costs you to buy that card. There's a lot of good cards in the Pokemon hobby you can buy for $400. And in fact, you could probably buy a couple good cards for $400. Now, everything is subjective and relative, whether you think $400 is a good price for a card or if you could buy good cards for $400. But I just don't like leaving that much extra money on the table. Honestly, I like to leave a little bit less. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, or I guess the second thing. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is Leonhart's Pop Shop is going to be this Saturday. So I fly out on Friday. I get in pretty late Friday night. I'll be there Saturday. Now, I will be there with two people that I know definitely. So Basic Trainer, obviously, I would say all you guys should know Basic Trainer by now because he's now been on 2 different lives on this channel. He's always in the chats. I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but he'll be there. And then Rock Pokemon, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He has a smaller channel. He'll be there too. So maybe the 3 of us will get together, make a little content while we're there, whether it's a pack opening or a pack battle or, just hanging out and just maybe we'll be able to, probably not do any kind of live stream stuff during the event, but I'm going to keep it open to maybe like Saturday night before I fly out on Sunday, if their schedules allow it. Maybe go out to dinner and then maybe go back to like one of somebody's hotel rooms and do a live. And it would be more like, the 3 of us in the same room talking, where that is very rare when you think about like the live discussion, especially when you talk about Pokemon, especially YouTube, to have everybody in the same room at the same time actively having that discussion. It's definitely very different when you're talking to a camera or talking to your computer or talking to somebody through Zoom. So that is definitely not a guarantee. Like I said, it's really going to depend on a lot of people's schedules. Basic Trainer has a family. Rock Pokemon, I don't know if he has other friends there or what. But While I'm there, there's a couple people that are going to be there. The big one, which is the biggest obviously, is Leonhart's going to be there. But then also TCA Gaming has said he is going to actually be there in person. And then like I'm going to butcher her name. I don't know how to say it. The Naticelli, the voice of Ash Ketchum from the cartoons. Now, out of those three people, like, yes, I'm very excited to meet Leonhart, but I think Leonhart's going to be very busy. But I'm extremely excited to meet TCA. So if you guys saw my most recent video I made where I kind of showed you what I thought happened at PSA for their pack rating of how I think PSA accidentally opened up TCA Gaming's packs. And if you haven't watched that video, I recommend going back because I show you exactly what I thought happened with weak crimps versus good crimps. And then if you know how that video ended and you're not new to this channel, you know what card was in the good pack. But TCA actually commented on that video. Then I don't know if it was his most recent video or his previous video before the one he released today. He actually mentioned that video in one of his videos talking about, how, somebody made a video, open up two Evolving Skies, and it, was very interesting. Like for me as such, now this is where I'm a fanboy at the end of the day. Like when I look at like a TCA game and I think of somebody that like I respect the most in the hobby and somebody that's been doing it, better and longer than everyone else. And the way he has grown his channel, when you think about how much product he's opened, it's probably in the millions of dollars. And even though he has like a very high subscriber count for like his type of channel, his subscriber count should be in the millions for what he's open. But like for me, I respect a guy like that. I've always enjoyed it. He is the most down to earth, most real person, but he's going to be there. So I'm looking forward to, even if it's just a matter of like talking to him for 30 seconds or 20 seconds. Like I'm just going to be happy to get to meet him. And then, like I said, Leonhart, and then the Naticelli one, she's not really the voice of Ash Ketchum. I remember, like, first of all, I don't really know who was the voice in like season one, which would be the most representative of my, grow up. But I got a couple cards here that I want to have signed, and I want your guys' help to figure out which card. So I figured for Leonhart, the card I would have him sign is a Natu. Now, if you know his channel, Natu, how do you do? Like every time he pulls one, he freaks out. So I have four to choose from. They're four Natus. They're all CGC 9s, and they're all from Skyridge. This is part of that submission that I created in one of my videos back. Now, the reason why I need your help is because I'm not sure exactly what I want to do. Should I give him the Natu to sign that has like the lowest of all the subgrades? Should I give him the one with the highest of the subgrades, or then there's just one that's a mint 9 and it's a 9 across the board? So I am leaning towards the 9, 8.5, 9, 9, but I just don't know which one of the four I should have him sign, or if I should just do it with like even though this isn't the highest subgrades, the 9 with the 9s across the board, because some of these are 9s with 9.5s. The 9 across looks clean. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Then for TCA, easy one. Just giving them a Charizard to sign. So I got a Charizard and Brixen, the GX. It's from Cosmic Eclipse. It's 9.5. But this card, I forget what these came in. They weren't like League Battle decks. It was like this Charizard, and then there was also the 2 Charizard and Reshiram from Unbroken Bonds. Like there was the 3 Charizards for like $20. I cracked open a bunch of those, sent those cards away, and this is literally the last one I have left to sell. So those cards, that was like those sets, opening up those 3 cards was just like, it was almost like cheating at selling Pokemon cards because it was so easy. So for TCA, I'm going to have him sign a Charizard. Then if I do see that Naticelli girl at the voice of Pikachu, if I do have her sign a card, I didn't really know. I figured she has to sign an Ash card. The only Ash cards I have is the Pikachu from Cosmic Eclipse, which has Ash and Pikachu, or then the Red's Pikachu, the 20th anniversary. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe just do the 8.5 Cosmic Eclipse, because these Reds Pikachus, I mean, usually like this is a decent one. The thing is, like 9.5, 9.5, 10, 9.5. So three 9.5s and a 10. These cards are one of those weird cards that such an easy grade at PSA. Like PSA just hands out 10s for these things all day. CGC, obviously, 9.5. So I would like to know you guys' thoughts, which ones I should have signed. Let's see. So I'll read some of the chat now. If you guys had any questions, if you just write at Pokeknowledge and then write your question. Shabal says, hey, Pokeknowledge, hey, man, are you disappointed by the pack selection for Leonhart's event? No, I guess not. The reason why I say, am I disappointed that there's not going to be like any of the packs that would be like my dream packs to open? Yeah, kind of. But I got to be realistic. Like the packs he's going to have available, you can go back to my first video, Chevals, and you can see exactly the packs that I said, this more likely than not what's going to be there. Like it's going to be the base set. Now for the base set, he had, I think, a couple boxes of the single pack blisters. So, and then jungle, and then he had a ton of base set 2 stuff. I think it was like maybe Gym Challenge. He opened up a couple of the gym sets. I forget which one. Yeah, but it's kind of what you expect. Like, I don't know. Would I like the Neo set? Yeah. Would I like the e-readers? Would I like the Nintendo stuff? But the thing about those is, one, they're much rarer. The cards inside really are super expensive when you think about it. And so now with what packs are available, what do I want to open, or what am I going to probably go after if I now have the option? I don't want to open base set 2. Like that would be the pack I'd probably want to open least. I would think maybe at this point, seeing what's available, maybe just base set. And the reason why I say that is because, yes, base set, even though they're unlimited packs, I'd still have the chase for the Charizard. But my personal chase, if you've watched my videos in the past, and if you never got a chance, go back. I think one of the videos on this channel is literally titled like my backstory. It's a video of just, it's not really a Pokemon video. It's just talking about me and talking about how I got into the hobby and what, like the chase cards that I was growing up. And the chase card I've talked about never being able to pull as a kid was that base set Raichu. And yes, I own more base set Raichus than any person should ever own. Right now I own them, but growing up as a kid, I never got to pull that card. And in fact, growing up as an adult, I still to this day have never pulled that original base set Raichu, whether it's first edition, Shadowless, or unlimited. So if I did pull a Raichu unlimited, which, PSA 9 is probably like $150 maybe. Like, I don't know what a PSA 10 runs at right now, but a PSA 9 probably like $150. Trust me, I will grade that card instantly. Like at PSA, I don't care. Like that will be one of those cards that I'll throw it down, have it graded, and that card will now be in my collection forever. And if that were to happen as my personal chase card, that base set Raichu, to actually finally, after all these years, all these cards, all these packs, to actually pull that card myself, that would be wild. That would be something that would be worth the entire trip, be worth the flights, be worth the price of the ticket. It would be worth everything if I was actually able to finally pull that Raichu. So I guess that would probably be the pack I would end up choosing with what is available. Now, the crazy thing is he's going to say, well, you could still pull that Charizard in base set 2, and you can still pull that Raichu in base set 2. I don't collect Raichu base set 2. I only collect Raichu from base set. Like, I don't care about base set 2 stuff. Now, would it still be cool to pull a Charizard? Yes, of course. It doesn't matter the set. Now, I think one of the sets he had too is like I think you could pull like maybe a Blaine's Charizard or stuff, but there wasn't a lot of those packs available. So I definitely don't want to get like a jungle pack. I definitely don't want like a fossil pack. I don't know. It's tough. Like, I almost want to bring my own packs and just have like a pack battle with Basic Trainer and Rock Pokemon. Is Basic Trainer in the chat yet? No, he's still not. He's gonna hopefully he watches this video when the replay happens and wishes he was in this chat. Uh, so see a lot of familiar names. I appreciate all you guys. See Professor Oak in the chat. If you guys haven't got a chance, Professor Oak has a new channel. Recommend going. I'm a little bit behind on your videos, Professor Oaks, but if you guys like a lot of like the data, he talks about the PSA pop reports, cards being graded, all like the current numbers and stuff. It's got a pretty interesting channel. Pretty cool PSA submission too. Chief Kane's in here. Poke Collectibles, good to see you guys. Let's see. Poke Collectibles said, at Poke Knowledge, do you think CGC will increase in value with people knowing they can crack and regrade at PSA? No. I don't think that's, see, this is that weird thing. And I guess it kind of runs a little bit into like the Mark Pokemon thing. And, you know, like one of the things they said was, well, a lot of people aren't paying them for their cards back and their submissions. And maybe if we could get like Z and G eventually on this channel, like we could ask him, say, hey, you ran the graded gem branch of the United States. Did you have a lot of people not pay for their cards? Because a lot of people said, oh, all these returns are going to come back. The Pokemon market's going to absolutely crash and people aren't going to want to pay for these cards to get them back because there's going to be no money there. And I never really could like get behind that. And the reason why is because a lot of these cards are probably graded at like the $10 tier, some of them at the $8 tier, some of these real bulk, you know, the more bulkier types of cards. Now, if somebody were to grade one of those bulkier type cards at like a $50 or $100 or $200 tier, yeah, like those guys are going to get absolutely demolished and smoked in the future. But now the people who are getting cards back and they spent $10 to have them graded, like there is a very, very, very small, minuscule amount of cards for PSA that sell for less than $10 slab. Like you actually would have to probably go pretty hard on eBay to find those cards. Now, you can make the argument of whether or not those cards are worth it even at $10, but like I said, just for the now, will some of these people potentially get their cards back? They grade super low and they'll actually end up in the long term losing out on money because if they actually, you know, just sold those cards raw, maybe they would have made more money than after they had them graded and have them returned at low prices. Yeah, that is, you can maybe put that argument. But to say like people are going to lose out on money, probably not. Like I don't even think people are really just going to break even. I just think maybe a lot of people won't have like the Pokemon to the moon type price increases. Maybe that like price margin for a lot of these cards would just be much smaller than either they expected or what they were a couple months ago, maybe when they sent those cards. So that's the only argument I can see. I can never really see those cards like people not wanting them back. I tell you what, PSA slabs, especially PSA 10, PSA 9, like those cards still are selling all day and it doesn't really matter on the card. So to answer your question, Poke Collectibles, like, do I see CGC prices in like rising just for that? No. And the reason why is because in the back of people's heads, like, I'll give you an example. Like, we just talked about this, like the Reds Pikachu, 9.5, you know, subgrades 9.5, 9.5, 10, 9.5. Like, this is a strong 9.5. This literally no nines. Now, do I think that this card is a very good crossover the PSA? In CGC 9.5, this card probably sells for maybe $98, 99, $100. Let's just say $100 for easy numbers. This card in a 9.5 is 100. In a PSA 10, it's probably like 150. So that's literally like this card in PSA 10 sells for 50% more than it sells in a 9.5. Now, will people want to crack cards like this? Well, there's still the question of if they do crack it. See, I sneeze in every single video. If the question will still be if people crack this, like what happens if it grades a 9? Now they're going to lose even more money. So I think people will still be hesitant to do that. That was a long-winded answer for that. Cheval says, Poke Knowledge, I checked his video and he mentioned he'll have some Neo packs too, probably the best to get. Also, sets prior, but all unlimited. Yeah, I was thinking that if he does have Neo sets, like, if it, especially if it's like base set Neo or something, and I could maybe pull the Lugia or something like that, like I'll definitely go, or any of the Neo sets that I can pull a Shining, like Neo Res. Is it? Oh my God, I'm spacing. Is it Revelations? Neo Rev? Is that what has the Shining Raichu? I think that's. Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, if I could pull any of the Shining cards, that would be awesome. So, let's see. Poke Collectible said at Poke Knowledge, do any grading companies actually send cards back without receiving payment? Uh, no. Like, I don't understand the question. Like, no grading card companies send cards back without receiving payment first. Like, even those graded gem like submissions, even though you don't pay for those cards until graded gem gets them back, like graded gem is still paying PSA to get those cards back. And I guess in a way they kind of own your cards until you pay for them back in a way. But yeah, no grading companies would ever send cards back without getting paid first. Now, like CGC, at the very beginning when they started, you would pay all your invoices up front. But then what happened was, like, for bulk tier, advertised turnaround time 30 days ended up being months. People ended up like getting pretty upset. It's like, hey, I paid for all these cards up front when I did my very original submission and they were received. Now you're not giving me my cards back. Then CGC changed their payment structure, so now you don't get charged for your cards until right before you get them back. But then, if you guys have watched any of our rant videos in the last couple months, you understand, like, even that's not true. Right at the end of 2021, they just charged a ton of people. Like that week of Christmas in December, everybody just got slammed with tons and tons of charges. And a lot of that is like super sketchy, super bullshit CGC business tactics. And you guys know how I feel about CGC now. I don't like CGC anymore. Uh, uh, Kevin Clare said, I bet you they are not the last submitters to go bust this year. And that would be interesting too. I think there's going to be a lot of people that go bust this year. And that's why I talked about it a million times in the past. Like, you want to be successful in this hobby, like, just be very careful who you're sending cards to, who you're trusting. Like, if you're going to send stuff to people, make sure that they're legit, that like, their names, stuff like this. Like, I don't yeah, that's super dangerous, especially in the long term of the hobby. Like, if a bunch of people are untrustworthy and you're sending your cards to them. Now, let's put the tinfoil hat on, but like, is it possible if you have like a pretty good card on a very high end for like very, very small mom and pop submitters, like, is it possible they could swap out your card and, swap it for a card of a lower grade or lower quality? Possibly. Would I say that that has ever happened in the history of grading cards? Like, the millions upon millions of cards that PSA has graded, is it possible that at some point some middleman had done that? Maybe. Now, are these big guys doing it? Are the Ludkins doing it? No. Are the graded gem doing it? Absolutely not. Like, you don't have to worry about those guys, but like Billy McGee down the road, who is just, you know, handling people's submissions for no reason. Like, he doesn't even get like better prices. That people are literally just sending them cards for, I don't know why. Like, because people can't figure out how to like type that card into a submission form or some crazy stuff like that. Like, in order to submit cards to PSA, it's literally free. Like, you don't need an account to do it with them. Like, yeah, if you have the collectors club, like, it helps for the most recent raffles and stuff, which I didn't do the one today, and the last one I didn't get. I ended up being like, I think the number I got was like 2,082, right around like 580. They shut it off. So I think only like 1,500 like people got that, and I just got very unlucky. I was in the 2000s, and the one at 12 o'clock, I was just busy at work. I wasn't able to even log into it on my phone. So I've been very unlucky so far. I have gotten 0 of those $50 grading tiers. I'm hoping to at least get some pretty soon. But yeah. Poke Collectible said at Poke Knowledge, only as you mentioned people not paying for their cards after grading. Unless you meant if the grading fee exceeds the card value, then yeah, I get that. So, well, unless the grading fee is never going to exceed the card value, unless somebody, like I said, is crazy and submitted at those super high tiers. But yeah. So Ben Lowry, good to see you in the chat, said, Poke Knowledge, do you have any CGC graded comics? I bought my first couple last week, came yesterday, and actually loved them. I am not hopeful for big gains, but man, they look cool on display. Thoughts? Yeah, I have a very few that I bought a long, long time ago. When I say a long time ago, I'm talking like it's got to be close to a decade ago. And like, I'm a big Simpsons fan. Love everything Simpsons. Like I was just just texting my friends today. I got some like Simpsons #1 comics graded in CGC that I had just bought on a whim a long time ago on eBay. Like I'm gonna guess low price points for like high grade 9.8 CGCs, like less than $20 maybe. So I think that's high. But those are cards that are kind of just in my personal collection. I got some real old original. If you guys know me, I'm a Ninja Turtles fan. I got some old Ninja Turtles comics graded in CGC. I think I have 1 through 5. So, but nothing like crazy. So let's answer that question. So Kevin Clare said, personally, I think PSA is partly responsible. They had them on the list of certified submitters. Some blame has to fall on them for letting them get millions in debt. I think Kevin, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. PSA should be at blame a little bit. Like, if PSA is going to allow these people to be, very large submitters and stuff, like there needs to be some checks and balances. Like whether it's a huge down payment up front, like when you send the cards to PSA for them to have them graded, either that company needs to put money up front as like a down payment, or you need to vest them, whether it's maybe not through credit checks or anything, but like maybe more of if like somebody was going to become like an actual franchisee where they have to show actual financials to PSA saying, yes, PSA, I would like to submit cards through you as a third party. Like, here are bank statements. Here is how much like assets I have. Here's actual stuff that if I can't pay, you can then go after me. Very similar to like how like a bank could go after you and put like a lien on your house or something. Like maybe at like that sort of high end PSA needs to do, and really start to vest these people a little bit more, because like, but like, do we get to play a little bit of that Monday morning quarterback in there where it's like after the fact we can say PSA should do all this? But I think PSA is one of those few companies that's in that position where they could kind of make their own rules and say, listen, if you want to be a third party submitter, like you need to present all this stuff. And if you don't present us this stuff, like forget about it. You will never like be allowed to do that officially through us. So yeah, I think PSA should take a lot of blame, because and all those people that submitted those cards, like they're the ones that are really like, like hurting the most. I always think it's crazy if you guys could hit that like button and help spread this video out. Maybe I say it all the time, like maybe there's somebody out there, you hit the like button, YouTube algorithm will pick it up, and somebody who's never seen this channel will actually be able to enjoy it. So Cheval says, Christian, he's talking to Christian Diaz, says, I think knowing the ratio of 9.5 versus 9 versus 8.5 modern card, how consistent is it to compare it to other companies? Could change perceptions or not? I mean, it's so Shavals, when you talk about like I'm guessing what you're kind of talking about is if CGC ever like opens up a pop report or something like that, where people could say, okay, this is how many 9.5s, 9s, 8.5s they've submitted for these cards. Let's compare in the PSA. I think what the problem is going to be, or probably the fear for doing that, is people are going to see how hard 10s are to get. And they're going to say, well, do I want to submit this card to CGC and more likely than not get a 10? And the price that I'm going to get at that card is going to be drastically less than if I were to have that card graded by PSA and get a 10 opposed to a 9.5. So if that happens, I think there's a potential down the road that a huge amount of people are just not going to be grading with CGC anymore. Now, I'm kind of already on that boat. Like, there's a couple, well, there's one card I'm going to send the CGC. It's going to be a great video. It still hasn't happened yet, but it's on my list of things to do. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen. Like, if PSA can actually open up, they can ramp it up to like, I think last year they did like a little over 8 million in cards. They're talking like close to 20 million they want to do a year. Now, even if they were to like 2x from where they were last year, go from 8 million to 16 million, like that's a lot of cards to grade. Now, if they can in fact grade that many cards, it is very possible, actually with very high likelihood, if you can start to grade 20 million cards in a year, you can realistically lower your prices down, because at that point, you're just turning and burning like a stupid amount of slabs. Now, I think where the trouble is going to run into for PSA for stuff like that is doing 20 million slabs a year. I think just the logistics and the manufacturing of actually like producing the plastic for these, slabs and everything. I think that whoever the factory is, and whether it's China or they have a place in California, whatever factory is actually making these slabs, the actual plastic, like, you got to keep in mind, even they're going to have to like probably quadruple where they were at, because in order for them to just pump out this many slabs, like just the logistics of that kind of stuff is going to be a lot. So that'll be interesting. Poke Collectible said, when do we think PSA reopens sub $20? So it's kind of like the question I was answering a little bit is, when are we going to open up those tiers? It could be sooner rather than later. Now, a lot of it is going to be really on how PSA looks on the back end, like the infrastructure that PSA is building in the backgrounds that we can't see. Like, sure, they're opening up these like tiers with the $50 and stuff like this. But if they're continuing to hire people, if they're continuing to train people, if they're continuing to grow like the infrastructure that is needed in order to grow, like do all these cards, like $20 a card, I wouldn't put out of the realm of impossible in 2023. Now, 2023 is 12 months. That's a long time. But I think that is a very good possibility we can see $20. Now, one of the things that could help that is if the card market in like the entire card market retraces a little bit or cools down a little bit. So it's really going to have to be like sports, Pokemon, and that's pretty much the big two. If sports card market cools down, if the Pokemon card market cools down a little bit, where maybe it's not worth it for people to send so many cards to PSA, then the backlog will get cleaned up. Not as many cards will be graded, and then I think that $20 is more likely, but not like a high likelihood. So Cheval said, Poke Knowledge, I 100% agree with you. That being said, as a collector, I don't hate the idea of tougher, more accurate grades. I know you'll disagree about the accuracy part. So, all right. So I'll talk about what you're saying, like the accuracy part is I have an issue with. So one of the things in the video I made, like one of the things that a lot of people went after me for when I talked about like these cards, I was like, this is where I think the inconsistencies are weird, where you could have a card that has like on the same sheet have an 8.5 surface and a 9.5 surface. And a lot of people went after me kind of hard on that, saying, how do you know those cards came off the same sheet? Well, these 4 cards came off of a sheet. These are all from Skyridge theme decks. So a Skyridge theme deck all gets printed out on the same sheet. Trust me. There wasn't somebody in the factory hand sorting out 60 card theme decks for, I think those theme decks back then were, selling for $10. Like, there was nobody out there hand sorting out 60 card theme decks. All that stuff came on one big sheet. So you would have, like, on that sheet, all 4 of these cards would be lined up next to each other. So where I have a lot of trouble with the consistency is how one of those cards could have a 9.5 surface and then another one could have an 8.5 surface. Now, when you think about that, you could say, is that a lot? That is a lot. That is a big difference. Now, this is where everybody comes in and they're like, you don't understand. There could be so many issues that could go on and all this stuff. Yes, but no. All these grades, for the most part, for these 4 cards, should have more or less been exactly the same. Should have all been 9s. And yeah, you can go like how the blades are cut to cut these cards and all this stuff, like the dullness, like I don't want to. I just shake my head like I don't want to do the argument against people, but I'll put it this way. Like, this one got a surface of an 8.5. The Weedle that I sent, that was in the exact same theme deck. It was the Weedle, but it was the reverse hollow Skyridge Weedle. That Weedle also got an 8.5 surface. The difference between this non-hollow and a reverse hollow Weedle in Skyridge, if you know what reverse hollows of these e-reader cards look like, there is a ton of surface hollow, like a ton of it. So you would think that reverse hollow 8.5, now reverse hollows were cut from different sheets, but like, to have scratches on a reverse hollow should be much higher likelihood than a non-hollow common. Like, that is what just drives me nuts. And that's the thing that I've seen on a lot of non-hollow cards. And in fact, I've seen more hollow cards with like 10 surface grades than I have non-hollow cards. And maybe I've seen like a very, very small, minuscule handful of non-hollow cards that got 10 on surface. But like, if you looked at CGC's 1 millionth card they had graded, it was the full art Mew. You know how those full art textured cards have? To give that full art textured Mew a perfect 10 for surface, but you can't give like some common non-hollow, fresh from a pack card a perfect 10, but you can give that textured Mew a perfect 10. It's like, oh God, give me a break. Like, let's be real. But there's people out there, they'll fight me on this tooth and nail forever. They don't care. But I'm a strong believer in that. There's no way that all my non-hollow comments, and because trust me, for these older sets, like for Skyridge, like, there's probably a lot of people out there who would want this card. Maybe not for a lot, and it depends what a lot is, but there's probably a lot of people out there who would want this card graded as a 9. But the thing is like, why are my hollows all grading better on surface than my non-hollows? And it's like across the board for CGC. Every single hollow I have grades fantastic for surface, unless they have a different grading scale for surface and they do non-hollows. And then that's just like, oh God. So Ancient Mew said, Knowledge, you still doing that eBay interview? I am. If you guys don't know what Ancient Mew is talking about, so I was supposed to be interviewing one of the largest sellers on eBay. He has a feedback score like close to 400,000. He moves like thousands of booster boxes of Pokemon cards. Now, I probably shouldn't have like said it was going to be this month, because when I talked to him, he was talking about he's moving into his new warehouse. Once he gets settled in his new warehouse, I'd be able to like get a tour of that warehouse. he would show me. I'd get to like maybe do a little bit of filming in there, and then we would do the actual interview in person in his warehouse. Now, when I was talking to him in December, he was talking about like taxes and stuff like that. So I probably jumped the gun a little bit by saying it's in January, but yes, that is still eventually going to happen. The exact date still to be determined. It's just going to be on his schedule. And he's definitely a very busy person. Like organized chaos that guy has going on. So Christian Diaz says, what's the difference between an 8.5 corner and a 9.5 corner? So I would say that corners are the easiest thing to like truly identify or truly pick out. Like to see an 8.5 corner versus a 9.5 corner, I think is pretty easy. Now, the harder one to do is like if you could tell me the difference between like a 9.5 corner and a 10 corner. Like I'm looking at this 9.5 that has, oh shit, the corner's 10. Never mind. What's this one? All right, here, this corner's 8.5. So I would say maybe the difference between a corner 8.5 is maybe you won't have like the whitening on the corner, but sometimes you'll have like a weird cut at the corner where it will still have that like solid blue, but it will almost be like bent up a little bit. But I don't know. Yeah, honestly, it's just like whatever the grader wants to do that day. So trainer Adrian said, granted, they can be on the same sheet, but you don't know what the quality of the sheet itself is. I work at a printing company. You make sure the paper is in good shape. You don't analyze it. There you go. Like, there's just always going to be people that are, and, you know, he's probably right in the sense, like, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Like, I understand that you work at a printing factory, but you know how many Pokemon cards I have pulled apart before, like studying how cards are made, like how this stock, like Pokemon cards are trading card. They're like playing cards in a way. Like they're built different. Like they're built, even though we put these cards in slabs and you know we put them on a pedestal and stuff like this, these cards are still built different. Like these are way more rugged than just like some flimsy piece of paper. Now, sure, when you have like whitening issues and stuff like that, that could just be from like the cutters of the machine. But like the surface stuff, I just have a real hard time getting behind that. Like I understand corners, I understand the edges, but I just don't understand the inconsistency on the same sheet on the surface. And yeah, maybe you could have a little bit, but for me, a surface grade of 9.5 to an 8.5, that is an entire point deducted. That is massive. That is like having a card that is a PSA 9 versus a card that is a PSA 8. Like PSA 9s and PSA, so a PSA 10 to a PSA 9 is sometimes very hard to tell the difference from. Now, a PSA 9 to a PSA 8, if you've held enough cards, if you've seen enough, it's very easy to recognize the difference between a 9 and an 8. So to say that I can't tell the difference between a 9.5 surface and an 8.5 surface says a lot. When I could take this card, hold it up to the light, do as many things as I could possibly think about to look at that surface, shine it under a black light, do high-res scans, get a magnifying glass. If I can't identify the difference between an 8.5 and a 9.5 surface, I feel like that just says that it is a little bit more subjective. Now, when you think about like a PSA, if you guys have ever missed like either a binder dent or just any sort of like small indent, and you just go from PSA 10 to you just start at a PSA 6 instantly. Like all those cards are very easy to identify. And then the same thing when I see like a CGC centering grade of like an 8 or an 8.5, you got to understand when you get to a centering grade of 8, you now go closer to like an OC card than you are from a 10 in a way. Like if you keep dropping past that centering 8, like you're now OC. And some of the cards that I've seen where they've given like 8.5 centerings to are very questionable. And now all these cards too, like I talked about before, on the same sheet, they should all have like very similar centering grids, and not all of them do. But listen, I made that video. I'm not going to keep doing that. So Cheval says, fair points. I'm not here to lobby for CGC. I just think it's a good buy, and I don't plan on grading with them again for now. Yeah, I don't want to keep trashing on CGC all the time. I think I already said it before. The reason why I'm just CGC upsets me is because I had so many hopes for them, and I feel like they're inconsistent to a T. Like the most inconsistent company ever. And like, yeah. Let's see. Trainer Adrian said, I'm not saying I disagree, and you're probably right. Different printers can have specifications that are wildly different. Yeah, but you got to think these printers that they're using, like these printers are all doing the same tasks. These are not like cheap generic printers in order to print these Pokemon cards, even back in 2003 when these Skyridge cards were. Let's see. Poke Collectibles said, Poke Knowledge cards, most underrated Nintendo set. I'd say Sandstorm is pretty underrated. EX Dragon's pretty underrated. EX Hidden Legends pretty underrated. EX Ruby Sapphire is kind of underrated. I would say any set before Team Rocket Returns for the Nintendo sets are underrated. And the reason why I said those sets are underrated is because after EX Team Rocket, EX Team Rocket Returns, like all those sets had gold stars in it. So can you say gold star sets are underrated? No, not really. If anything, you could say that all those sets are overrated. So that's why I say for the underrated sets, it's pretty much all the non-gold star sets. But there's some awesome ones, and I've talked about a million different times on this channel, and really like them. Like yeah, even like maybe EX Emerald is probably kind of an underrated set too in a way. Like there's some really nice reverse hollows in that set now. Hollows, reverse hollows, but I really like the reverse hollow, especially with like that emerald written on the card. It's like that green. Oh, it's just a beautiful color. So Poke Collectibles said, okay, now best EX hollow set of the Nintendo sets. That's easy. EX Team Rocket Returns, like all the dark Pokemon. If you like dark Pokemon, like I love the Hypno in that. Just like pretty much dark Pokemon in general. Like did not like dark Pokemon in the original Team Rocket, but for EX Team Rocket Returns, I do like all the dark Pokemon, and like every single hollow in that set is just a straight up banger. Like just ignore like the Treco, the Mudkip, or the $50,000 Torchic that's in there. Like ignore those cards. Yeah, EX Team Rocket Returns, boom, hollows all day. Max said EX Emerald has excellent stamp. Yeah, everybody's saying EX Emerald goes hard. Yeah, it does. Dougie Fresh EX Dragons all the way. Yeah, EX Dragons has some of the best cards, like in general, especially when you're talking about like first EX Rayquaza, pretty good. EX Dragonite's in that. It's a EX, yeah, and then like the secret rares, the Charmeleon, the Charmander, the Charizard, all those cards hit hard. Ancient Mew said Dark Tyranitar is awesome. Yes, definitely Dark Tyranitar's in there. I bought that in a couple PWCC auction blocks back. I got the Dark Tyranitar from that set. Cheval says I like Legend Maker reverse hollows. Yes, and I think I showed off some of the Legend Maker reverse hollows on this channel before. Poke Collectibles would have to agree 100% what I would to have a master set of it. If you want to, all right, I'll do it again. I'm going to throw it out there. So if you want to pick up all the commons and the uncommons for EX Team Rocket Returns. Echo Based Collectibles. He's been on this channel before. He has those sets on eBay right now, and they're cheap. I think for a complete common, uncommon set, it's like $50 right now in his eBay account. Like $50 is not really bad. I mean, is it kind of a lot? It's subjective, right? Like it's, oh boy, there goes all my subscribers or everybody watching just like all went away to go pick up a full common, uncommon set of EX Team Rocket Returns. Max says Sandstorm has arguably the best artistic set design, but you put that set completely in a 4-pocket binder and it just flows. And Max, the reason why EX Sandstorm flows is because it's like the very first Jolteon set. Like everybody is like, I shouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of people are evolution fans. Like Evolving Skies prove that. People really like Eevees. And when you talk about like, what would you say is the very first Eevee set? And yeah, maybe you can say Jungle, right? Because Jungle had the Flareon, the Vaporeon, and the Jolteon. Wait, what did I say? Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon. And then, yeah, you had like the Water Blast theme deck from Jungle, had the Vaporeon on it. So maybe you can say the Jungle was the first one. But when you talk about like awesome artworks for those evolutions, like I would definitely say EX Sandstorm is number one. Now, the Vaporeon EX Sandstorm is not my favorite of the artworks. And then, like, what's another really good Jolteon or not a really good evolution set? Then I would just say like probably just like EX Delta Species. If you don't know what like the EX cards in EX Delta Species, like there's an EX Jolteon in that set, like that is another hardcore, hard hitting like evolution set. But I would definitely say Sandstorm is underrated. Like the Pikachu is actually pretty common, like especially in like reverse hollow. Now, not my favorite Pikachu artwork for like a common card, but uh Poke Collectible said, what for reverses? I'm Poke Collectibles, are you asking what set is the best for reverses? I mean, best for reverses, like I'm partial on this. Well, he said Nintendo set. So who said I think somebody said EX Legend Makers earlier. Like EX Legend Maker, I do like the reverse hollows in that because I like the reverse hollows that have like the energy symbols in the background. So I would probably have to go with that as being the best reverse hollow set from the Nintendo sets. Now, my favorite reverse hollows, which probably aren't the most flashiest, it's just the ones that I have my personal feelings to, and they're you could probably make the argument they're like the least exciting is just Skyridge because out of all 144 cards, like everyone's a reverse. You have a reverse in everyone, and then for the crystals, you have the reverses for those cards too. So. Cheval says, and they like Rayquaza. The Ultra Premium Rayquaza promo still selling high with this overall modern market collapse. Well, I think, Chavaz, you're talking about the Rayquaza from like the Ultra Premium collection from the Hidden Fates. Now, that is just first of all, it's like a shining. I guess it's kind of different. Like, yeah, it's the promo from the Hidden Fates, but it's a shining card. And not a lot of people have those ultra premium collections. Like they were, I think they were like MSRP for like $100, and they only had like one print wave of them. Not a lot of people have them. So for that card, the hold pretty good. I could see that definitely like making sense. Now I think where the price of that is just in the actual sealed product. But I've talked about like that Hidden Fates ultra premium collection, very similar to like what we just saw with the celebrations, like the Pikachu figure collection. Like those boxes suck to store. You literally have to put like one of those boxes in a cardboard box in order for that thing not to be crushed. And it's the same exact thing for like the super premium collection for Dragons Exalted, or not Dragons Exalted, for Dragon Majesty. And then the same thing for the Ultra Premium collection for the Hidden Fates. Like you got to put them in cardboard boxes. Like if you can display them nicely, like you have the room on your shelf, like maybe, or if you're going to be like TCA Gaming and literally have those Hidden Fates Ultra Premium collections that's like your backdrop on your videos, like, yeah, I guess if you do it that way, you'll be fine. But I don't like those things. They're just tough to store. Ancient Muse said, think they'll do e-reader sets for the 30th anniversary. No, I don't think they'll ever go back and do e-reader sets. I think the only reason they did e-reader sets in the past was literally for like the Nintendo e-reader, like actually trying to swipe that card, and whether it's to get a Pokemon or like a special item or a special border or stuff like that. I don't think they'll ever redo those cards. I mean, would I like to see it? Yeah. If anything, like maybe I'm not even going to start speculating on what a 30th anniversary release can be. Professor Oak said, Pokeknowledge. Speaking of Pikachu, I got outbid on a fire red, leaf green, non-hollow Pikachu the other day, and it went for almost $200? No way. What? Was that in a PSA 10? Like, that doesn't seem right at all. No, that's a crazy high price. Yeah, I would just say go buy that card raw and grade it yourself, Professor Oak. Again, shout out to Echo Base Collectible. Everybody just flood to his eBay account. He's got a bunch of fire red, leaf green Pikachus there too. So Pokin Fun said, I would like to see them bring back the Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Energy style cards. Yes, love the Heart Gold, Soul Silver. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about, like the Heart Gold, Soul Silver, the Energy cards, they have like Pokemon in the background. They have like buildings or castles or stuff. There's like the sky view. Like they're pretty beautiful. I think I've shown them off on my channel before when I was like opening up one of my tins before. I think one of those cards was like a Heart Gold Soul Silver Energy card. And if you do, who wrote that? Pokin Fun. So Pokin Fun, if you do like those cards, those Heart Gold Soul Silver Energy cards, and you want to just add them to your collection, the best way to get those cards is just find like Heart Gold Soul Silver theme decks. Yeah, like the sets no one wants, like the theme decks. They're probably not going to have any chase cards in it. It's not going to have any packs in it, but it will have like a bunch of real nice near mint of those energy cards. You could shop around, find a couple of those Heart Gold Soul Silver theme decks. Like that's how I got, well, not how I got a lot. It's like how I got all my Heart Gold Soul Silver energy cards in near mint condition. Just bought some theme decks. Like that's the best way to go about it. Now, I don't know. I have no clue what the prices for theme decks from those sets are. I'm going to guess probably like less than $50 though, like still relatively cheap. I could be way off and they could be like in the hundreds of dollars now. I'm very far removed from looking at Heart Gold Soul Silver theme decks, so something to keep in mind. Cheval said yes, because you mentioned evolution lovers explain Evolve and Sky success. Don't forget Rayquaza. Oh, that's what he meant. Okay. Basic Trainer, good to see you in here. Basic Trainer, we were talking about you earlier in the chat that you're going to be at the Leonhart Pop Shop. Derek said they didn't even do an e-reader card in Celebration. They didn't do any e-readers, and they didn't do any crystal cards in Celebration. Like they did, if you think about it, they did every card in Celebration. You had like base set hollows, then you had like level X cards, you had the prime cards, there was the gold star cards. One of the things they left out is the big one. Let's see. Pokeknowledge. Did you get your VIP Leonhart email today? I did. So I'm in group 3 for like the Pearl group. So VIP Pearl group 3. So if you guys are going to be there, feel free to reach out to me. Best way to reach out to me while you're out there, you just find me on Instagram again. Said it before. I have an Instagram for this YouTube channel. It literally looks like a fake YouTube or a fake Instagram account. I think I have like a bunch of people following me. I have 0 posts following 0 people. But if you want to direct message me on there while you're at the event, I'd say that's probably the best way to reach out. Christian Diaz says, because it's cool to hate on Martin, which I completely disagree with the idea. I've been very pro modern in a way. I've put some good arguments for modern on this channel, so I'm not totally against modern. The only time I'm against modern is when people pay like way too much for modern at release and then can't figure out like why they keep losing money on Pokemon. So Cheval says, let's see. That is part of the hard mentality Jake from Pokeknowledge mentioned. Modern attrition rate will be 1% per 5 years. That seems a little low in 5 years, but possible. B-Max Riot says, at my local LGS, kids go crazy over modern art and sets. Yeah, I would say kids go crazy over modern because that's what they know. Like, who was it? It was Flex Gods was on my channel. He was in the chat here and he was talking about like some kid at his local LGS was talking about Aquapolis cards. Like, it just blew him away. Same thing when I read that, when he wrote that. It just, the thought of that blew me away. But when you think about kids today, they only know modern cards. Like, they know the Sword and Shield block the same way you and I probably know like the original 3 or 4, like Base Set, Jungle, Fossil, Team Rocket. Like, that's the stuff we grew up with. That's the stuff we remember. And, you know, those are cards that like cemented themselves into us. And when you think about like the Gen 1 starters versus the Gen 8, yeah, for Gen 1, you have like the Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, like everyone knows it. But then when you look at Gen 8 and you look at the Sword and Shield and you have the Sobble and the Score Bunny and the Grookey, like for this generation, like those 3 starters could definitely be their Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle. Like, we just don't know. I think we as like call it OG collectors or the older collectors, like we look at those Gen 1 starters very differently. Now, there's probably a lot of people just moving into now like the Gen 2 starters, you know? And I wouldn't even say that's like, you look at like the Typhlosions and stuff like that. Like, will Typhlosion ever have the same kind of like feel to it as a Charizard? Probably not, being like, you know, the 3rd stage evolution for that Pokemon. But I don't know. Like, do you can answer this question, like, do you see Cyndaquil, Quilava, and Typhlosion? Do you think about those 3 the same way you think about like Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard? Like, is it the same way you get like the Cyndaquil maybe, but like Quilava, I don't think Quilava is on the same as like a Charmeleon. And then Typhlosion, while it's awesome, it's just not on the same level like Gen 2. And you could do that for, you know, every single one. And you know, yeah, I think while I played Gen 2, because I had Pokemon Gold growing up, like I had Blue and then I had Gold. And, you know, to have those Gen 2 starters, like, I don't know, for Alligator and the Meganium, like Meganium loses to Venusaur. For Alligator, definitely loses to Blastoise. And I don't know, Typhlosion loses to Charizard. Like, you put the Gen 1 starters against like a lot of different starters. Like, I don't know. Maybe we'll see like Green Ninja, you know, like kick off in the future more. Like, that could definitely be like one of those like stage 3 starters I could see a lot of people like liking in the future. And that would really go to like the anime. And if you guys are like me, I don't know his name, but he always does a bunch of videos. It's like the entire history of like Ash's Green Ninja, Ash's Charizards, Ash's Pikachu, Ash's, Pidgey. Like he goes through like all these, and like one of the more interesting videos he made, I think it's like one of his more recent one, is he does the entire backstory of Ash's Green Ninja through like the anime. It's pretty interesting stuff. I recommend you guys going and just doing a simple YouTube search after this video is done and just do and watch that. And I think like Ash's Snorlax, there's a ton of them. Ancient Mew. Yeah, when Celebrations came out, there was hordes of kids in line with me at Target waiting for the distributors. LOL. B Max Riot said, "We are boomer collectibles." Or we are boomer collectors. You know what, Max? If you can be right in a sense, and I talked about this when I was on Jake from Pokenomics when he had me on his stream. I talked about this. I said, Jake, like the one thing that we don't talk about enough is, right now, like this generation of collectors, we're just moving into like our higher income earning years. Like I talked about it, like when you're younger, like in your 20s, you're going to college, and you're mainly throughout your 20s, you're establishing yourself in your job. In your 30s, you're really going to start coming into your highest income earning like times. You're going to start progressing very quickly, and then eventually when you get older, like in your 50s, hopefully you're making more money at 55 than you were at 25. And when you look at like the sports card market, you look at like people who are collecting cards in the 70s, they were our age in the 90s when the sports card had like that huge sports card boom, and they call it the junk wax era and all this stuff. But then that population or that generation continued to age till now where they are in 2020, and they're now in their 50s, 60s, and you see prices of sports card reaching like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, some modern cards selling for like millions of dollars. Like, can you say that that is a possible like trajectory for our generation for Pokemon? Like, I wouldn't rule it out. Like, the generation that is the most heavily buying pressure right now, I would say, is in like their mid 30s. Hopefully, you're going to continue to make more money and you're going to have more disposable income in the future. So, if that thought process does play out and Pokemon doesn't die, it continues to grow and it continues to be a strong investability, collectability, all that goes with it. Like, there could be a lot of cards out there that are selling in the hundreds of dollars right now that could easily be in the thousands. Or, when we get to the point, and we might be a little far from it, but when we could get to a set where there's a lot of set cards selling in the thousands, I think that will be the first major step. And sure, there's already some set cards like the all first edition cards, like let's ignore those at high grades, but like some of these mid-tier Eris cards, is it out of the realm of impossible for a lot of these cards to be in the thousands? Like, we're already seeing it at a very high grade for a large majority of some cards. Now, what's it going to take to get all those cards there? And I told you, there's one person who's completely undefeated in history, and that one person is Father Time. Father Time could just outlast everyone. So really, at the end of the day, he is going to be the person that makes the final decision as Father Time. How much buying pressure, how much collecting, like, is Pokemon just a fad? And I can't get behind that argument. Like, is Pokemon a fad? We're way past that. Like, forget about it. So Pokenfun said, Lugia, Blastoise, Typhlosion, none of them have gotten any love in Sword and Shield. Well, I gotta think about that. In Sword and Shield, have any of those cards got love? No. The only Lugia I could even think of off the top of my head for Sword and Shield, and I could definitely be wrong, but it's like there's a hollow Lugia, like not a full art, just a hollow in Vivid Voltage. Man, yeah, you're right. The Typhlosion, Blastoise, Lugia really did not get any love. Now, I think we will see Typhlosion come in the next set, but pretty interesting. Let's see. Shval says, Modern has some potential, but put a lot of asterisk in there. Not everything. Certain things at certain price points. Gotta know what you're doing. the answer, yeah, it wasn't really a question he wrote, Chevals. It was more just a statement, but he was right with that statement. Like, price point, price point, price point. That's the only thing that's going to matter in the future. And I think there's already been some like opportunities maybe already arising. And are we in the ashes of this boom? No, not yet. Like, I don't think we're in the ashes yet, but I think everybody just thinks everything across the board went up. Everything across the board is going to go down, it's going to crash, and then everything's going to level out. And we're not really seeing that. Like, you could spot cards here and there, sets or releases or pop reports, stuff like this, and you could start pointing at cards that are actually going against that like argument. Some cards are still continuing to go up. That's when you talk about, true rarity, true scarcity. Like, Basic Trainers said to Christian Diaz, comparing to Wizard of the Coast Hollow Unlimited for sure, but if you look at pops for hollows, some still have under hundreds and nines and tens after 25 years. Unless we're going to stop caring about condition, we're far from that. Like, if anything, we're going to go from people not caring about condition to continue to care about condition more and more. And now, for some of the super modern stuff, like for vintage stuff, you can go after nines. Obviously, you go after tens. Maybe some cards you could go after eights. Mainly, I would recommend people to stick with going after at a minimum nine for a lot of WotC stuff, even though pop reports could seem low. Now, for modern stuff, do I see like that very unfortunate person that gets a pack fresh card and grades it and gets an 8, CGC 8.5, 9? Do I think those cards are going to hold premiums in the future the same way a Wizard of the Coast 9 holds? No. For modern cards, it's really just going to be like 10 or go home. And that's just because there's so many of those cards out there. And like the way people are handling modern cards today is very different than people were handling cards back then. Like, nobody's trading their cards on the jungle gym, like with, their greasy peanut butter and jelly hands, like trading cards back and forth or crumpling cards or sticking their Charizards in their back pocket and like riding the school bus home. Like, I don't even think kids are doing that nowadays. I think even like kids that are buying these cards understand, like, for some of these higher end modern chase cards, like, there is like a value to it. They should probably sleeve their card, put it in a top loader. And I think in the future it's like 10 or go home for modern. That's just my personal opinion. We are, so Fresh Tat said, we are at the beginning of the junk slab era. Yep. But I don't like to call it junk slab. I call it bulk slab. And it's a yes and it's a no. The reason why is it's only going to be a junk or a bulk slab era if the buying pressure is, if the demand is less than the amount of cards that come out. And what could have like this weird counter effect to these bulkier type cards is if PSA never really lowers their prices back down to where these bulk cards that were graded at these very low $10 tiers, let's just say PSA only ever drops down to $30 a card. If that happens, like, there could be people out there that want, like, I don't know, like a Baby Shining from Hidden Fates, like a card that I would consider a very bulk type card. Like, there's a lot of those out there. Now, if that card only ever reaches like a max price of $25 and somebody spent $10 to grade that card, like, that card raw is not $15. That card is, so we could run into this weird timeline, or at least, a timeline where it could take years for people to start sending these very bulky cards back to PSA. So I think when you're talking about junk slabs, you could really be talking about like mom and pop graders, like not CGC, not Beckett, not PSA. Like, maybe the other card companies, like those type of real junk slabs that is just like some random card put between two pieces of plastic and sonic welded together, like if that's what you're talking about, then yeah, those are the cards that will probably always be low and will never, ever, ever, ever be worth it. So I don't really talk about those type of like graded cards on this channel very much, or at least I try not to. Never Cold said, I pulled a Mimikyu V secret rare from VMAX Climate the other day, and I was just elated. Dude, I love Mimikyu. One of my favorite Mimikyu cards, I think it's the first one. I don't know, but the first ever Mimikyu full art is a Rainbow Rare from Lost Thunder. It's definitely like doesn't get very much love. At least it should get more love because I think Mimikyu will start to become a more and more popular Pokemon as time goes by. And when you think about it, Mimikyu doesn't have like a ton of cards yet. I think in the future, Pokemon is going to realize like Mimikyu is a very popular Pokemon. Let's just make a ton of cards for it. Like there's the new Mimikyu, that secret rare full art card's very nice. And then even going back to like the last character card from Cosmic Eclipse, like I really like that Mimikyu, but there's not a ton of those. And if you watch one of the videos I made a long time ago, I made a position just in a very random, I think it's the uncommon Mimikyu. Well, it's the uncommon Mimikyu in reverse hollow from Cosmic Eclipse. I own like 50 of those cards, like a ton of them. That's a Mimikyu in Cosmic Eclipse in reverse hollow where he's kind of like peeking around the tree. It's like, I loved it because I thought when I think of Mimikyu, like that is the artwork that I think of is like that Mimikyu hiding behind the tree, kind of peeking his head around. And for me, I was just like, that's going to be a card that in the future, I think it's going to be like, maybe not like to the moon kind of thing. But when I look at a card like that, I'm like, okay, if I own 50 reverse hollows of this card, you're probably going to pull one per booster box because Cosmic Eclipse has like 236 cards and it's a freaking massive set. So to pull, you only get 36 packs. To pull one reverse hollow out of those 200 plus cards, like it's probably like one out of every 3 booster boxes you're going to pull that reverse hollow. So I own 50 of them. So that means you're going to have to hypothetically open up 150 booster boxes of Cosmic Eclipse to pull that one card. It's like, that's a lot of booster boxes of Cosmic Eclipse. And Cosmic Eclipse, I don't think people are really ripping through it like they were. I talked about that in a video, and that video missed its mark big time. I talked about that, and I talked about the Burning Shadows Charizard that I picked up in reverse hollow. But those are like set it and forget it type cards. That's not really like that's just like, I will like this card. I like the artwork. I think in the future other people will like it too. Do what you want with it. You want to go buy, reverse hollow uncommons, like go for it. I think they were like less than $1 a piece, Probably should have bought more of them now that I just shilled my own card and I don't even have any graded. Never Cold said, I would love to rip some Cosmic Eclipse. I miss that set so much. Yeah, that makes 2 of us, man. I think there was a couple Cosmic Eclipse in like knockout boxes pretty recently at Rite Aid, but that was pretty last time I've seen that. But yeah, we hit the hour, almost hit the hour and 30-minute mark. But yeah, it's getting late here. But I did want to just make this live because I haven't really been on recently, so if you guys could do me a favor before you sign off, if you could just hit that like button. I tell you all the time, I don't ask you guys for anything, but I do ask that you hit the like button because it really does help me out a lot. But other than that, guys, I'll catch you on the next video.